So we're here today talking with Warren regarding beneficiary designations. It's a subject that a lot of people ask us about. Warren, why don't we start by just having you answer the question, who should be the beneficiary?
And that's a great question, and it really all depends. And when I say that, it depends on, first of all, how mature the beneficiary is, or whether they're a spendthrift or have any substance abuse issues where being a beneficiary might fuel their demise. So one of the first things we look at is the right decision to have a person be the beneficiary outright, or should we potentially use a trust? And then another layer of this that we look at as well is from a tax standpoint. Sometimes it's more advantageous to make the spouse a beneficiary than a child. And so there's many things that go into that, but by and large, beneficiary designations are great in that we can have assets go exactly where we want them to go, rather than a default, which is probate. So if you don't name a beneficiary on an account that allows you to, you're automatically sending that asset to probate in the event of your death. And while probate may not be expensive, it is a big hassle. And so the goal always is, if we can name a beneficiary, we want to.
So a lot of times people will say, can I just put my children on all the accounts in the house just to make it easy?
Yes, I know. We get that all the time, or we get calls and they're like, when somebody calls and wants a change of title form, we're always concerned and leery. And the reason for that is, what people don't realize is, if you put your child on an account or on your house, and your child ends up with some liability, either with the IRS or with some outstanding bill, they can actually attach your whole house if the bill is large enough to warrant that. But even if it's a $10,000 bill, they could attach your home or your bank account and garnish your asset. So we never really want to have other people on title, with one exception. And the one exception largely comes into tax planning. So sometimes you can structure ownership of an asset so that if, for instance, you've got an elderly parent, the way the tax code works is, when somebody passes away, the asset gets revalued, and that's called a step up in basis. So when the asset is sold, you only pay tax on the gain between the date of death. So sometimes having a joint title arrangement can be advantageous, but we love to see structures around that so that you don't suddenly make the asset subject to liens or subject to garnishment from the state if the person was on Medicaid, for instance, for nursing home care.
I see. So it would be better to not have someone on joint title, but rather put them on as a beneficiary. So that would be the big difference.
Right.
There.
We really want them as a beneficiary, and if it's any type of joint title, to get a step up in basis, which would be really one of the only reasons I can think of that we would want to do that. Or if that partner that you're putting on title is in a significantly lower tax bracket, which could make sense. In other words, if you're a high income earner and you've got a child over the age of 23 earning very little income, maybe you want them on title on some assets because the tax bracket they're in is significantly lower. But in so doing, you don't want to just put them on title. You want to use something like an LLC or a trust to be sure that the asset is protected, so you get the tax outcome you want without the additional risk.
I see. Great news. Thank you very much.
You are more than welcome.